Hello everyone, my name is Sock, and I have a video for you today on how to mine relatively safely in Null and Low-Sec. This video is going to have best practices for mining in Null and Low-Sec. If you practice this, you will be prepared to escape virtually any threat that enters your area safely. So with that out of the way, I am going to start with the single most important lesson, which is do not AFK mine in null-sec space for any amount of time. Don't do it ever. AFK in Eve stands for another free kill, and seriously, you're going to die. You might think you're safe, but you're not. If you are not in high security, do not go AFK. Mining might seem like an easy, passive thing to do, but it still needs at least enough attention that you can watch out for danger. So just don't do it. All right, so first step, obviously, going to a mining area. I recommend you go to a mining area by setting a destination to the system using the star chart so you can autopilot there. Autopilot in null security is actually fairly safe right now due to the size of our ships and server latency. There's virtually no fear of being gate camped. Now I'm cheating and I'm making this video in high security space, but that's because I'm not particularly talented at making videos and I don't want to have to split my attention. And I want to show off some custom overviews, which is super unsafe to do in low security. So for the purpose of learning, everything I show you here is going to apply. So first thing, when you arrive in a system, you're going to notice that you are stealthed. You can see this little green timer showing that you are cloaked for 1 minute when you first enter a system. We are going to use that to our advantage every time we go mining. When you are invisible, you cannot be locked and you cannot be seen. Now, you do show up in the list of players in local, so they'll know you're there, but you can't be targeted. So, while you are invisible, the first thing you want to do is set an autopilot destination to get to safety. I personally set it to a station or something nearby, and the easiest way to do that is by accessing your inventory, clicking Personal Assets, choosing the system you want to go to, and pressing the button on the bottom to set destination. Done. It's that simple. In order for a station to show up there, you do need to have at least one item in the hangar, so maybe just drop off a pilot's medal or a single piece of ore or something to that effect. The second thing we do while invisible is to check local for bad guys. To do this, click the little symbol of a person that shows the system population on the top left of your chat box right here. This will pop open the local window, and I highly recommend you keep this window open at all times. While mining in dangerous space, it's going to show you everyone who enters the system and everyone who is already there. And an important thing to know about local is that it populates from the bottom up. That means that any new people who enter the system will appear at the bottom of the list. So you want to scroll to the bottom and keep it there to monitor incoming traffic. If you're mining near your corporation's designated space, chances are you're mostly going to see blue and green people in local chat, and that's what we want. If you see red or neutral people, that means there's a threat in the system, and you may want to reconsider mining there, or you'll at least need to be hyper-vigilant the entire time. I also recommend that you find a system that isn't densely populated and isn't super high traffic, as that makes monitoring the local window significantly more difficult. If you're in a low population, low traffic system, only a few people come and go, it'll be easier to watch. So now that we've checked local, and let's pretend everything I see is blue and green just for the purpose of this video, and we've already set our safety autopilot destination, our next step would obviously be to mine. So let's get started on that. Select your belt and start warping to it. Now, before we actually start mining, something you might have just noticed is that I switched my overview. I use a custom overview filter, and I think you should do the same thing. The default overview filter is fine for high security activity, but it is clunky at best for low and null security. I've created a custom one for mining that allows me to view just one tab that shows me both threats nearby and escapes. So let's take a look at that. Click the filter button on the top right of your overview and you get this menu. This menu allows you to create a custom overview. To create a new one, you click this arrow here and press the plus sign at the bottom. Now I've already done that and I've named it mining, and I only have 3 tabs. The most important one is this one, which I named Danger Escape. On Danger Escape, I do not have any ships selected because I don't care about that. I do have structures selected because I want to be able to warp to safety. I personally don't have celestial bodies selected just because I don't want that screen to be cluttered, but your mileage may vary. You can do whatever you want. Signal, nothing in here. Don't care about that. Other issues, wrecks and cargo containers and pirates. Someday they might add belt rats, so pirate is good, and wreck and cargo container because every so often you might see an ancient artifact floating around in space. Here's the important one though at the bottom, standing. If you select neutral and hostile, all you'll see is neutral and hostile ships near you. Now I know I said I didn't select ships up here, but that's because this overwrites the standings at the bottom. So if you select any of these ships, even if you only have neutral and hostile selected down here, you're going to see all your friendlies. So this tab I keep open while I'm mining so I can see the escape vector I want to go to and any bad guys nearby. This one is pretty straightforward. It's rocks. It shows me rocks. I use this when I'm selecting my rocks. And the last one is other stuff. It has everything else. So I recommend you do something similar, but when you're setting up a custom overview, you should go to high security space to do it. You have to be undocked, and as you can see, while I was doing that, it pretty much covered up my entire screen, so it's not very safe to do in low security. Okay, back to mining. One of the worst habits a new miner will do is mine from the location that they warped in at, or at least very close to it. If you warped in at that location, so will a pirate. Unless, of course, they warp at range, but this is Safe Mining 101, not Safe Mining 301, so let's not worry about that for now. So what we should do after selecting our rock, I'm going to go with some scordite, is you should start to approach it. Use an afterburner. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. Once you've aligned with your rock and you've started to approach it, you should double click in space above it just a bit. Double tapping in space makes your ship align and start traveling in that direction. What we want to do is we want to move toward and eventually past the rock. On the other side, basically the opposite of where we warped in. You want to get as close to the maximum range of your lasers as you can get, but you don't really have to. So the reason that we do this is because the lowest tier warp disruptor has a base range of 21.25 kilometers. So we want to be as far away from anyone who is hunting miners that may be equipped with one would be. And we'll cover warp disruptors and warp stability at the end of the video. Once we're on the other side of our rock, we're then going to align with our escape vector. So for me, I have set my autopilot destination to a station, which means my next Stargate is going to be highlighted in yellow. That's my escape vector. So I'm going to click on that, and I am going to click Approach. Just a reminder, you can use anything you want as your escape vector: celestial bodies, a station, another asteroid belt, a star, a planet, whatever. This is just my personal preference. So once we're no longer turning, that means we have aligned. Now, this next part is a tiny bit complicated, but I've tested it pretty thoroughly in Echoes, and so far it seems like it works exactly the same as EVE Online. From a dead stop, whether or not you are aligned with your destination makes no difference at all. Whether you are facing your destination or you have your back to it, your time to reach warp will be identical if you initiate warp from a dead stop. What does matter is our velocity vector, which is what direction we are moving. So technically speaking, we're not aligned when we're stopped, like I am right now. What you actually need to be in order to be aligned is moving. So after you select your escape vector and you approach, you're going to want to long press the engine button to the left of your shields, and you get this, and you can adjust your speed. Set it as low as you can possibly get it to go. What we want is to be moving just a little bit. If we are moving, we are truly aligned, and if we are truly aligned, we'll be able to warp away faster. If you're at a dead stop, it doesn't matter if you're facing the right direction or not. For the purposes of the physics of the game, what direction you're facing while you're stopped is purely cosmetic and actually means nothing. Speaking of vector velocity, orbiting while mining is bad, so stop doing it. Stop now and never do it again. The short version for why is if you're traveling in any direction other than directly at your escape vector, it will significantly increase the amount of time that it takes you to warp. Yes, even though you are currently accelerating, you have to slow down, realign your ship, and speed back up. You will actually warp more quickly from a dead stop than from orbiting. So stop it. Okay, so we're at max range of the rock, which I'm actually outside of max range, but whatever, and we are moving toward our escape vector. Now what? Well, now we remain vigilant. Using my overview, or, something similar, all I need to do at this point, once I've aligned to my escape vector and I'm mining my rock, is to just watch local and watch my custom overview over here. Now, in the places I choose to mine, there's not quite as many stations and stuff, so I actually only see one Stargate typically, so it's much easier to see when naughty ships appear. However, on the right side, you'll notice there's these little filter buttons. If you see something that looks like a hostile or neutral ship symbol, that means something is near you. If a bad guy shows up, all I have to do to leave is press autopilot. Just like that. I'm already aligned to the Stargate, so I'm on my way out. I'm gone. It's as simple as that, guys. When you're new to this and figuring things out, I recommend you get out as soon as a bad guy shows up in your local window. I feel comfortable enough to wait until they actually show up at my belt, but I've been doing this for a long time and I know that I'll be okay. That's all there is for safe mining practices. It's really not that difficult. Check your surroundings. Make a custom overview. Set yourself up in the right positions in the belt and remain vigilant. And I really cannot stress this enough. Do not AFK mine outside of high security space. If you want to AFK mine, I made another video about high security mining and pyroxeres missions. When you're in nullsec, you are not safe. Again, even if you're in a system that you know is owned and patrolled by your corporation, you are still not safe. If you need to look away from your device for more than a moment, or you won't be in a position where you can glance at local in your overview every so often, you need to dock until you can pay more attention to it. Almost every single minor death at this stage in the game is due to going AFK, so just don't do it. It's not worth it. Autopilot home until you can pay more attention. So the last thing we're going to cover is warp stability. In order to understand warp stability, we first have to understand warp disruption. There are modules in this game called warp disruptors. These modules, when used against another ship, cause that ship to be unstable, and they won't be able to warp away if the warp disruption value is higher than the value of that ship's warp stability. So the vast majority of ships don't have any default warp stability, but mining ships do. The Venture Trainer and all of the mining barges, which are the Tech 7 and higher ships that use strip miners, have a roll bonus that provides them with innate warp stability +1. The Venture, Venture 2, and Venture 3 all have warp stability +2. You can see it right there under my roll bonus. Warp disruptors, Mark 3, 5, and 7, all have a warp disruption value of 1. Mark 9, and all faction disruptors have a warp disruption value of 2. So if you are in Adventure 1, 2, or 3, a single warp disruptor from a single pirate cannot lock you down. Unless, of course, the pirate has 2 warp disruptors equipped, which would be extremely expensive and very stupid. But if you are in a mining barge or adventure trainer, a single pirate can lock you down with a faction disruptor. Despite having baseline warp stability, I still recommend you fit at least 1 warp core stabilizer in your low slot. This helps protect against multiple pirates and crazy pirates using more than 1. Since we're all inventors at this point in the game, warp disruption isn't going to happen too horribly often, but that doesn't mean we can be complacent. Once we reach tech level 7, we'll be in mining barges, which have lower warp stability baseline and are absolutely slow as molasses. They take forever to align and warp due to their mass, inertia, and overall really low speed. So if we start practicing safe mining today, we won't get caught with our pants down later and lose an extremely expensive mining barge. So that's all I have for you guys. Thanks for watching. And remember, AFK mining is never okay in nullsec or low security space. I've said it many times in this video, and if that's the only message you take away and you don't want to do all the other things, great. You're like 90% of the way toward not dying. Seriously, just don't AFK mine. And if you are someone who's AFK mining in low or null security space, I sincerely hope that one of your socks is just slightly damp all the time for the rest of your life. Safe mining, everybody.